Today we're going to talk about how small family farms are disappearing and what that means for our food, our environment, and the people who live in rural areas. Over the years, we've seen fewer and fewer family farms. In 1935, there were almost 7 million farms in the US, but now that number has dropped to under 2 million. The problem isn't just about numbers, it's about how farming is changing and who controls it. The primary claim here is that small family farms are being pushed out by big farming corporations. Big agriculture is focused on making more money and cutting costs, and that means they're replacing family farms. Family farms are better for the environment, help local communities, and are more sustainable. But big agriculture doesn't think about that. They care more about their own profit than the health of the land and the people. Big agriculture supporters say that large farms are more efficient and cheaper, and that's why they're needed to feed a growing global population. But the cost of that efficiency is huge. It harms the environment, lowers the quality of our food, and hurts communities. While the main issue is the loss of family farms, there's another big problem. The secondary claim is big agriculture uses harmful methods that damage the environment and make our food less healthy. It's not just about the economy, it's about how these farming practices hurt the land and the food we eat. Experts like Wendell Berry and Michael Pollan have said that industrial farming is damaging. Big agriculture uses lots of chemicals, focuses on just one type of crop, and harms biodiversity. These methods are bad for the planet, and even worse, they are making food less nutritious. But even though we know it, big agriculture keeps growing and
Evidence is brought up. Evidence, economic. Decline in the number of farms. The number of U.S. farms declined from 2.04 million in 2017 to 1.88 million in 2024, an 8% drop, reflecting the continued disappearance of small farms. Financial pressures of small farms. In 2022, small farms made up 87% of all farms, but contributed only 90% of total agriculture production value, showing larger farms dominate profits. Agribusiness. Industrial agriculture benefits from economies of scale, government subsidies, advanced technology, which small farms struggle to compete with. Wendell Berry and one of our key stakeholders mentioned the fragmentation of rural towns. Industrial agriculture leads to fewer small towns, reducing locally owned businesses, schools, and infrastructure. Aging farmer population. The average age of the U.S. farm is 56, showing fewer younger people are entering farming, and family farm traditions are disappearing. Disconnect from food origins. Industrial farming reduces transparency in food production, producing, processing, and distribution. Disconnect people from food sources. Michael Pollan, one of our key stakeholders. Also, corporate efficiency versus sustainability. Large agribusinesses prioritize efficiency, often at the expense of nutrition and sustainability. Evidence, consequences against the environment. Soil degradation. Monocropping and heavy chemical use deplete soil nutrients and reducing long-term fertility. Water pollution. Fertilizer runoff contaminates water sources, leading to toxic algae bloom. Biodiversity loss. Large-scale monoculture reduces genetic diversity, making crops more vulnerable to disease. Climate change contribute. 26% of global greenhouse emissions come from food production. Antibiotic use. Extensive use of antibiotics to promote animal growth. Over 70% of medically relevant antibiotics in the U.S. are used in animal agriculture, leading to antibiotic-resistant infections in humans. Also, crop diversity. 75% of the world's food supply comes from 12 plants and 5 animal species, reducing dietary nutrient variety. Pesticides and chemical use. Industrial farming relies on synthetic pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers, leaving toxic residues on produce. Nearly 70% of conventionally grown U.S. fruits and vegetables contain pesticide residues. Nutrient decline in crops. Industrial farming depletes soil nutrients, reducing nutrient levels in crops. How has corporate consolidation changed the agricultural landscape? Corporate consolidation. Four-firm concentration for the beef packaging industry increased from 35% in 1990 to 95% in 2020. The extreme concentration reduces competition, which might lead to lower prices for farmers, higher prices for consumers. Seed and the agrochemical industry. Only a couple of corporations manage a large amount of seed and agrochemical sales worldwide. The various stakeholders use the same evidence but interpret it differently. Wendell Berry believes industrial farming erodes rural communities and food quality. While we saw it as this, we focused on the cultural loss industrial farming leads to: fewer smaller farmers and weaker local food systems. Michael Pollan criticizes corporate agribusiness for harming food quality and the environment. We interpret it as showing how big agro prioritizes profits over sustainability and health. Rodale Institute focuses on environmental damage. We use the evidence to highlight the superiority of regenerative agriculture over chemical-heavy farming. Union of Concerned Scientists, concerned with the scientific impact of industrial farming and climate change. We interpreted the evidence to how large agribusinesses contribute significantly to climate change and ecosystem damage. How does the evidence stand up in the dimensions of accuracy? Most sources come from reliable organizations, but some come from opinion columns, which is a limitation. Precision reports from the FAO and the USDA studies like David provide accurate quantitative data. Some sources may lack detailed verification. Sufficiency, USDA reports offer strong quantitative data on trends in nutrition depletion. Includes global, North American, and Canadian context with diverse stakeholders. Some sources emphasize U.S. agriculture over grassroots, which concerns over industry views. 480 statistical studies provide large-scale industrial sites. Some focus on specific groups, potentially underrepresenting policy perspectives. Overall evaluation: areas that need to be further studied are the health and nutrition, economic and social impact, environmental stability, food pricing, and consumer effects, because there needs to be time spent to overview this.
techniques and persuasions. When talking about the decline of family farms, there are a lot of ways to persuade people. One powerful method is emotional appeal. Words like vanishing and taking advantage of make us feel sad or worried about what's happening to family farms. Another technique is credibility or ethos. Family farms advocates build trust by explaining how small farms help the environment and support local communities. They want people to see that family farms aren't just about making money, they're about doing what's best for everyone. Another technique is contrast. Family farms are often portrayed as the heroes, while big agriculture is the villain. This makes it easier for people to pick a side, but it also oversimplifies the issue. Every argument has both strengths and weaknesses. A strong argument balances emotional appeal and factual evidence to persuade a wide audience. Emotional appeal is a powerful tool in persuasion. It makes people care about the loss of family farms and the decline in food quality, increasing their likelihood of agreeing with the argument. However, a lack of facts and data may weaken its impact on those who rely on research and numbers. Adding statistics about farm loss and food quality decline would make the argument stronger and more credible.
Next up, we have values and assumptions. Essentially, the values and assumptions both big agriculture and family farms have is on big agriculture, they value efficiency, profitability, and the ability to scale up business, and they assume that family farms aren't as efficient and that consumers value price over where the food comes from. Family farms, on the other hand, value heritage, community, and sustainability, and they assume that they produce greater quality food and that corporations care more about profits than the impact on people and the environment. These values that were found were stated on company websites. Some other areas are news articles and opinion pieces, or such as the USDA, they use their own data to support their views. The big agriculture's reality-based views focus more on meeting market demand, and some of the value-based is more on they see family farms more as like moving away from it as a sign of progress, as corporations are like the next big thing compared to small-scale family farms. Whereas the family farms, they focus more on the fact that with all the power corporations have, family farms have less chance of making a profit, making them more likely to close. And a value-based one is that they assume that they are more ethical than big corporations. Family farms tend to use more real-world cases of exploitation and the value of being sustainable to support their stances on big businesses. And companies like Cargill and Costco rely heavily more on values and showing how they're ethical and they help other farmers reach their goals.
So now let's jump to the conclusion. Industrial farm deliver efficiency but harm our environment. Family farm build communities but struggle financially. Our future demands both productivity and sustainability. And we were wrong. Industrial farming isn't just feeding the world, it's destroying it. And family farms are not quaint traditions, they are essential solutions. Efficiency alone isn't enough. Sustainability must be equally prioritized. So our group believes that we should stop choosing sides. Agriculture reform needs policies supporting sustainable farming, equitable market access to small farmers, and diversified models balancing productivity with environmental responsibility. So we as consumers, we have tremendous power. So what can we do now? We should buy local, reduce waste, and demand fair policies, because every meal is a vote for the farming system you want. Thank you so much for your attention.